And first this morning, the new face of GOP leadership with House Republicans voting for New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to replace ousted conference chair Liz Cheney on Friday. Elise Stefanik, a fourth-term Congresswoman from upstate New York, joins me right now to discuss both the conferences and her own priorities. Congresswoman, congratulations to you. So nice to have you here this morning.
Thank you so much. Great to be with you, Maria.
So tell us what this new role for you means for the House Republicans and for the GOP agenda.
Republicans are unified in exposing the radical far-left agenda of President Joe Biden and Speaker Pelosi. We want to focus every day on exposing the border crisis, the economic crisis, and the national security crisis in the Middle East, because it's having an impact on everyday Americans' lives. Our focus is on safely reopening our economy, getting people back to work rather than the incentive being to stay out of work, making sure that we're addressing energy independence. We have the highest gas prices under Joe Biden in over 7 years. So we have a unified message that resonates with the American people across the country. Republicans are unified despite what the media will tell you.
Yeah, Congresswoman, I mean, Liz Cheney has been focusing on January 6th, focusing on slamming President Trump. She made these comments on Wednesday. Take a listen. I want to get your reaction to what we're hearing from her. Here's Liz Cheney.
I think that it is an indication of where the Republican Party is, and I think that the party is in a place that we've got to bring it back from. And we've got to get back to a position where we are a party that can fight for conservative principles, that can fight for substance. We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president.
Congresswoman,
she is looking backwards. She is looking backwards. Republicans are looking forward. We are unified, and we are talking about conservative principles. President Trump is an important voice in the Republican Party. We are working as one team, and voters across America, certainly voters in my district in upstate New York, we believe that President Trump's results, whether it was the economic growth, whether it was the historic accords in the Middle East, whether it was being tough on China or the bipartisan coronavirus relief packages, these were significant results that helped everyday Americans. We are focused on moving forward, but also the stakes are so high. Look at how radical Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's policies have been. Joe Biden promised bipartisanship. We have yet to see any bipartisan legislation coming out of the Oval Office or the House. So I'm proud to represent the vast majority of Republicans, and that's why we needed to make a change of House Conference Chair.
Yeah, so these are the priorities. How will you be able to move the needle and actually fight this radical agenda? You're in the minority. I know that you're just a few seats away from gaining the majority, but will you be able to do it? Are you expecting a free and fair election to enable you to do that next year?
Well, that's one of the really important issues, Maria. When I go home to my district and as I talk to my colleagues, this is the case across the country, voters want to make sure that they have faith in our election system, which is why election integrity and election security is a top priority for the American people. And it should matter to you whether you're Republican, Democrat, or independent. This is why you're seeing state legislatures like Florida, like Arizona, taking action to address and strengthen their election systems. We need voter identification. We need chain of custody when it comes to the absentee mail-in ballots, signature verifications, and what the Democrats have put forward is a federal takeover to put them into power forever. The For the Politicians Act, H.R. 1, which would be taxpayer-funded campaigns. It would eliminate voter ID and take us in a radical far-left direction.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that they have gotten as far as they have with H.R. 1. It already passed the House. And we've seen Major League Baseball, a couple of corporations come out and blast Republicans for what we're seeing in terms of several states coming up with their own voting law legislation just recently, including Texas. There's also an audit going on in Arizona, which you've said you support that audit.
I support that audit. Transparency is important for the American people. And again, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or Conservative, transparency is important. And the audit was passed by the Arizona State Senate. The Biden Department of Justice is trying to block that audit. That is unconstitutional from my perspective. Our states constitutionally are responsible for writing their state's elections law. So the American people deserve to get those answers when it comes to the Arizona audit.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because the truth is the media won't cover this, and it's important that you see it as a priority, and we certainly will cover all that is happening on the voting front. Look, you have been hurled with hate ever since this took place. They are trying to attack, the left is trying to attack your record, saying that Liz Cheney is even more conservative than you are. Are you going to be able to withstand the attacks and hate being hurled at you?
It's a great question, Maria. I am used to the attacks as one of the #1 most effective Republicans fighting back against the unconstitutional first impeachment sham against President Trump. I was attacked from everyone, from Hollywood, from the far left, from the entire Democratic ecosystem. And we stood up for the American people, the Constitution, my district, and the president. And ultimately, that was exposed as an unconstitutional impeachment sham. So I'm used to the attacks, but the stakes are too important. I have a very thick skin, and I'm focused on issues that matter to the American people. For example, when I go to my district and talk to a small business, you see help wanted signs everywhere in this country right now. Small businesses are desperate to fill jobs, and yet the incentive that Democrats have put forth is for people to stay out of work rather than going back to work. So I'm going to focus on the issues that matter. I'm happy to take the criticisms from the editorial boards, the anti-Trump, the Lincoln Project, because they're out of touch with the hardworking American people.
I want to real quick run this soundbite of Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, joined me last year to talk about the state of New York. We're talking about the border issues. The agents on the ground told me that all of the illicit narcotics coming into this country through the border, they reached places like New York in 2 days. I raised the crime statistics with the mayor, and here's how he reacted. Let's look. Let's not even go into the issue of the bail reform law, where you had to let all of these inmates out and crime did spike. And we see that continuing so much so that you had to get them back and put them back in jail, because as soon as you let them out, they went and they committed more crimes.
Again, Maria, this city is the safest it's been since the 1950s. I have increased the number of
shootings
officers
are up
on patrol.
200%. Shootings are up 200%. He said it's the safest city since the 1950s, Congresswoman.
Crime is on the rise in New York State. It has been for the past year. Look at the number of shootings. It is higher than at any point in my lifetime, and I was born in the 1980s. Look at the high number of retirements from the NYPD. These are because of the failed progressive policies of Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo. And New Yorkers are fleeing the city. It is sad. We need to make sure that we are funding and protecting the resources when it comes to our law enforcement to ensure that every community has the safety and security. You pointed out the bail reform law. That has led to an increase in crime and violence in New York State, and it needs to be fixed. And this is impacting, border issues are not just for border communities geographically along the border. Every town, every city, every state in this country is impacted by the border crisis.
Yeah, real quick, Congressman, before you go, President Trump supported you to get the third highest rank in the GOP. How important is he to the party right now?
He's critical to the party. He is the leader of the Republican Party. Voters determine the leader of the Republican Party, and they continue to look to President Trump for his vision. And he's going to be an important part of us winning back the House in 2022.
All right, we will leave it there. Congrats again, Congresswoman. We hope you'll come back. We will be watching the developments. Thank you so much, Elise Stefanik.